Hey, and welcome back to the podcast. We are in the final week of June, which is wild because we are already a month done with summer. And it went really, really fast. So with that being said, our series for the month of June has been Calling, Clarity, and Faithfulness. And so we've been looking at this idea of, what, like, God's called you to the place you are, stay where you are, be obedient to what you've been called to do. Don't see success as a bigger, better place. Don't see success as a bigger, better ministry. Be obedient to what God's called you to be. You're not called to be someone else's church. You're called to be at yours. And so with that, and then we also looked at the idea of rethinking success and rethinking influence in youth ministry and talking about how, everything doesn't have to grow fast. It doesn't have to be dynamic and high energy and all these things. You might have the group that just needs you to be there. And how showing that influence can be more about you showing up than how many people are in your group. And then we're kind of closing out this series with the idea that a lot of times comes up in the month of June when you're at your first church camp, or when you're in that meeting with your elders, or when you're finally getting that 1 week of vacation, and it might be your first week of vacation all year. And you're like, man, do I want to quit? And so the week 4, we're just talking about the idea of staying the course when you want to quit. Now, I do want to preface with, there are times that you can take graceful exits when you feel like God's called you somewhere else. But I do definitely want to kind of preface this episode with the idea that don't use, for lack of a better word, don't use God's name in vain. Because a lot of times we think that using God's name in vain is this idea of like saying God something and like using that as a curse word. But in all reality, God's name in vain is also making reference to the idea that you put God's name on something that God didn't tell you to do so you can be justified. And so if you are saying that God is calling you to leave, yet you're just leaving because you're tired and burnt out, be careful.
It's essentially spiritual manipulation. And it's a very, very slippery slope. And it's a whole different topic that's not for today. But
yeah.
You got to be really careful with that.
Yeah. And so it's not necessarily a topic for today, but it is one of those things of like, when you say it's time for you to go, make sure it's God calling you, not your situation. And so with that, there are moments though that every leader faces. And it's just kind of, you hit that wall of like, man, I don't know if I can keep doing this. I have people all the time tell me, well, wow, your job must be so hard. It's like, well, it has its moments for sure.
Yeah.
But the thing is like, a lot of time the moments that I don't like, the moments that aren't necessarily the tough moments that I still feel defeated or still feel discouraged, come from fatigue, come from just personal, like me just being discouraged, come from lack of results, come from personal struggles in my own life. Yeah. And it's real. Those are all real things, but they shouldn't dictate what and how you do in a ministry, but they do sometimes. And so why do leaders feel like quitting? You should probably know this by now, because if you're listening to this, you've probably experienced at least one, unless you're a honeymoon youth pastor in your first year. Congratulations. But there's burnout, there's isolation, there's comparison, and then the one that probably hits the hardest out of all of them is unrealistic expectations. And that can be on you, that can be on your staff, that can be on your church. Even this morning, like I'm leading our men's Bible study. We're recording this on Tuesday this week instead of Wednesday. And every Tuesday morning, my church does a men's Bible study. We have 14 to 20 guys show up. And I was put in charge of leading it this morning because our associate pastor is on vacation. And I was like, hey guys, like I definitely appreciate prayer. Because we got 24 kids going to camp. It's awesome. 24 kids going to high school camp, and everybody's like, "Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, we'll pray for you," kind of thing like that. And then someone in the group goes, "Yeah, that's good. Did you hear that Beltway's taking Beltway's the big church in our town?" But they were like, "Did you hear that like this other church in town is taking 8 buses to church camp?" And it's like, well, yes. And while that does sound magical, and before I could like, I was just thinking this in my head, and someone else goes, "I just want to stop us right here." He's like, "Because this is not productive."
Come on, let's go.
And he was like, "And we have..."
Take that person to lunch, bro.
He was like, "And we have more things that we can be thankful for than looking and seeing whose grass is greener." Basically. And it was just like, but I think sometimes that's the mindset though. Like, and I bring that story up on purpose, and it's ironic that it just happened this morning, so it's fresh on my mind. But it's just, it wasn't necessarily that he had ill intent with his comment.
Not at all. Yeah.
But like, it's just this mindset of like, how many times do we do this to ourselves? Mm-hmm. It's like, oh man, I'm only bringing 5 kids to camp, or I'm only bringing 20 kids to camp, depending on your context. Yeah. And like, for what it's worth, I just want to also preface 24 kids is by far and large the most kids we've ever taken to camp, like double our largest ever. And so like, it's a great celebration for us. I don't want to undermine or belittle that either. But with that being said, like, how many times do we do that though? It's like, well, but it's not this much.
It's not that popular church in your town.
Yeah, it's good, but like, and one of my wife's favorite phrases is like, if you put "but" at the end of it, you just negated everything you just said. Like, yeah. And so like, she tells my kids that all the time. But
that's wise. That's very wise.
And so with it though, it's just this idea of like, we do it to ourselves so much. It's like, man, like last night was good, but
yeah.
Or
here's the funny thing about that is like, it may not seem like a big deal. You might be going, okay, all right, I put an unrealistic expectation on myself. Or, okay, but yeah, it is hard when you see the other churches and it seems like they're thriving. Of course it's hard, but here's the thing. The moment that you allow yourself to think it, as cliche as it is to say, Satan's going to take the mile. 100% he's going to take it. And next thing you know, that little thought of, oh, well, this might be the most we've ever taken, but we're still not comparing to that other church across the street, across the way or down the road from us. Next thing you know, doubt starts to creep in, and next thing you know, well, if I thought it, who else is thinking it? And next thing you know, you're full blown in panic mode, thinking the whole church is like mad at you for something that you played up in your own head.
Sure.
I know, because I'm the king of it.
Yeah.
And so one singular thought can turn into an entire spiraling situation if you're not careful. And that's why, again, Scripture tells us over and over and over, take every thought captive.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes when we think of that Scripture, we think of it solely on sin. But I think it could be anything.
Yeah.
Temptation, doubt, frustration, fear,
that's good.
Anxiety, anything else like that. And so I think we have to also take the thoughts, even the healthy ones, that go, hey, because I could look at a church like Beltway and go, man, that's really, really cool. I would love to set a goal to be closer and closer to those kind of numbers.
Sure.
And I think that's a healthy thing. I mean, yes,
but this is where I brought in the unrealistic expectations, though, because just for the people that are listening that don't live in our area, David is a youth pastor in a church that probably averages 100 to 120 on a Sunday.
Yeah.
Okay. Beltway averages 5,000.
Yeah.
So with that being said, while that's a great ambition for David to have, it is incredibly unrealistic to think that David's ever going to have a number that's even staggeringly close to Beltway's. Right. And it's not that that's a bad thing, but like, I think a lot of times we play with the idea of numbers, and I think if you want to play with a specific number, you need to be playing with the idea of percentage more than
Yeah.
So, like, the thing is if your goal is, I want to take 5% of our church to camp, that's an achievable goal. And realistically, if Beltway takes 8 vans, I mean, roughly, I'd guess that's probably a couple hundred kids. A couple hundred kids of 5,000 weekly attendees is not too far off of probably 5% as well. And so, like, when you're looking at it from a percentage standpoint, it's not as unrealistic. But if you're like, oh man, I wish I could take 2,000 kids to camp, when your church service is 200, I mean, like, we're doing it to ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. And honestly, for what it's worth, and I think we've mentioned it on the podcast here, but if we haven't, a really, really like super healthy youth group will reach 10% of your church.
Yep.
So when you think about it, if you're like, man, like, so say you're in a church like my size, at 100 people average, if I have 10 kids coming to youth group, I got a healthy youth group.
Yeah.
And that doesn't sound like a healthy group, but you have to look at the overall demographic of your church. And so I have over 10. We're doing pretty good.
Is that?
But sometimes it's easy to look at a small number like that and go, oh, we're not healthy. No, we are. You know? Sorry, you were going to ask.
Is that Mark DeVries, Mark Yaconelli? Who was that?
I thought it was DeVry, but man, I heard that statistic so long ago. I don't always remember who says what. Because I know it wasn't Barna, or at least I don't think it was Barna.
Yeah, so we can keep talking, but I might research that.
Yeah. So ultimately, it just comes down to you can't, also scriptural here, comparison is the thief of joy. If you are constantly comparing yourself to bigger churches, you're not going to be able to obtain that. It's just not a realistic goal.
Yeah.
Now I could look at another church that's about 100 or so, and now I'm not telling you to do this. I'm just saying if you're looking to grow your group, I can look at another church that's 100 and maybe they have 150 to 175.
Yeah.
And I could go to that youth pastor and say, hey, what are some things that are working for you guys, and why? Like, let's strategize and let's think about that. Or maybe we can do a group event together or something like that. And I can, our students can kind of learn from your students and different things like that, where it's more of a, hey, we are friends on the same team doing our thing. Like that's something where you're not just comparing just for the sake of they have more numbers, I want more numbers, do exactly what they're doing, because it's not going to work.
Yeah.
Because you have to lead your way. You have to lead specific to your group and your church and your mission statement and all the different things that go to it. Comparison just for the sake of numbers will fail.
Oh yeah.
I think every time.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that it can't work. I'm saying that it probably won't.
Yeah.
Highly unlikely.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing. And I just in kind of a quick Google search, it actually is going back to Tony Morgan, but I don't remember him being the. Okay. I remember it being Mark DeVries specifically.
Yeah, that sounds more right to me.
But just the idea behind like 10% of your church is a healthy youth program, and it doesn't say that you can't go past that 10. But Mark DeVries, I believe, goes into details of like, if it does go over, like there's these ceilings that you're going to hit, and like talk about these different walls and barriers that you're going to have to overcome, because largely if you have 10% of your group, if you jump to 20% of your church as your youth group, then you're going to need more volunteers, which is already unlimited and short supply due to the numbers of your church and everything else. So like it's just the mindset of that. So we don't bring that up for the nature of like, man, I only have 5%. Like 10% is the healthy goal. And so, but that goes back to the percentage idea instead of the numbers idea, because I'm not going to say that a healthy ministry for everybody is 25 students, because that's not realistic at all. So, but a lot of times those burnout moments, those isolation moments, that comparison and those unrealistic expectations are killers.
Yeah.
And they even strong leaders hit limits. And so feeling like quitting doesn't mean you're called to quit. Feeling like quitting means that you're called to have people in your corner that will speak life into you. So
I don't know that this is worth saying, but it popped in my head, so I'm saying it. Remember that emotions and logic are two different things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you feel it doesn't make it
Yeah.
real.
Yeah.
Because you think it doesn't make it real. So when you got both of them working against you,
Well,
this is where mentorship helps. And
yeah.
maybe that's something we need to talk about here is, in those moments when you're feeling like, I may be jumping ahead. I didn't
No,
read
no,
ahead.
no, you're good.
No. We're actually in a good spot. I would say if you're in a position, because we don't have it in our notes to necessarily talk about this, but if you're in a position where you're feeling like, do I need to quit? Is this God calling me out? Does this mean God's closing a door? Those kind of things, which we've all been there. We've all been in those positions. You have to have someone who, number one, is wise, and number two, loves you too much to be a yes person.
Mm-hmm.
You need somebody who's going to go, hang on, let's take this to God, let's take this to Scripture, and let's fact check this, because
Yeah.
you are emotionally compromised in this moment.
Yeah. I've heard
You
it.
gotta have that person.
I've heard it said never make a life-changing decision off of I feel.
Yeah.
I know, I understand, I'm drawn, like, not I feel.
Yeah.
Because feelings are fleeting, and what you feel today might not be there tomorrow. What you feel for a week might not be there at the end of the month. I feel like an old guy saying this is like, I feel like my stomach hurts all the time, but like it doesn't mean that it's gonna last there forever.
Doesn't mean you have cancer.
Yeah, exactly. And so like we can't operate off of our feelings.
Yeah.
Feelings are fleeting, just like emotions. And so like when you feel like quitting, it does not mean that you are called to quit. And that goes back to what I said at the very beginning of this. Do not use these as opportunities to be like, well, I feel this way, so God must be calling me. It's like, no. Do what David did. Hold fast to that accountability of peers. Hold fast to that group of mentors that you trust, that you can be like, hey, I'm kind of getting this feeling, and I want to see if there's any clarity to this.
Yeah.
What do y'all think? Have you heard anything, or have you seen this? Like,
I would also encourage you, don't then form your entire opinion off that one conversation. What I like to do is say, hey, here's the situation. Let's bathe this thing in prayer.
mm-hmm.
Here are 3 to 5 specific things that I'm praying for, and ask those people to pray with you for like a week, 2 weeks, however long. You set a parameter, and then you come back together and say, hey, what are you hearing?
Yeah.
Because that also gives you a chance to take a step back and divorce yourself of emotion, because what you're feeling today may be a whole litany of tired, frustrated, hard things. Maybe you're struggling in your relationship with your spouse or your kids or whatever it might be. Maybe you've got some other external family pressures, even not just in your home, but like your parents or your uncle or your grandpa or whatever that's pulling from you. And realistically, that situation has you wanting to quit everything, and has nothing to do with your job.
Yeah.
And sometimes being able to pray about it gives you a chance to work through the emotion you're feeling. It gives another person who's not feeling that emotion an opportunity to also pray and hear from God. And when you come back together, more times than not, either God has already answered it and you've gotten your clarity and you're okay, or if you're still in that position, you've got that other person that can say, hey, really been praying about it, really been thinking about it. Man, I think God, I'm sensing that God is saying that you need to stick with it. Okay. Or whatever it might be,
Yeah.
So take some time. Don't make an emotional decision in a moment.
Yeah. No, and that's the thing, is like, the mindset is like no decision should be made instantaneous, especially in that regard. Like, make sure you have people around you. Give it time to actually be a thing that you know and not a thing that you feel. And then also, like, if you're not called to quit, if you're not called to end this season, James 1:4, let endurance have its full effect, so that you may be mature and complete, lacking nothing. we will face trials. We will face situations where it's just not fun. I mean, like, really, like, ministry doesn't have to be fun and exciting all the time. Sometimes you're down in the mud, in the muck, and it's not a fun place to be. And so endurance isn't automatic. You don't just pick it up along the way. It's built over time through pressure, through faithfulness. You don't stumble into endurance, you develop it.
Yeah.
And so with that, like, I think a part of this is like, especially with these, like, speaking to newer youth pastors, if you've been in this for 1 to 3 years, I would say you got to hold on.
Yeah.
Because you really haven't had enough longevity to make it worth it. And like to see the fruit of the harvest, if that makes sense, to see the fruit of your efforts. And we've said it a bunch of times in here, like most people that have studied would say like 3.5 years is the sweet spot. Like if you can stay 3.5 years, that's when you begin to see the ministry transform and start taking shape into something that students will start loving and being a part of. And if you're just sitting there like on the cusp or changing every year, like you're never getting to that moment. And that's not like endurance is a reward because you get to see the fruit of your effort. And so, I mean, same thing with anything else. Like if a builder stopped the project after a month because he didn't see progress, like, no, the builder's all the way through completion because he wants to see the finished product. And so with that,
I would encourage you, sorry, Brent.
No, you're good.
I would encourage you, if you're in a position where you really feel like you want to quit, go find somebody who's training for a marathon or has trained for a marathon. That might sound a little crazy, but and I want you to ask them really, really deep and intentional questions like, hey, what was your process? How did you start? What was the process like as you went through it?
Yeah.
If they made it all the way through the marathon, what was it like when you finally got there? And because I'll tell you from friends that I've had who've done marathons, one in particular who's done several different ones and is always training, man, like sometimes the way that he talks about his intentionality and focus and his discipline for it, I'm like, man, this stuff would really, really translate well to ministry.
Yeah.
Like if we were as disciplined as somebody who's training for a marathon, I
Yeah.
think we could do some real good, And so if you're in that position, go talk to someone like that, and while you have that conversation, be honest about the struggles that you're having, because I guarantee you some of the struggles you're having is probably similar mentally to what somebody who's training for a marathon is, and maybe that will form a bridge of accountability, and somebody who helps you. And who knows, maybe that marathon worker looks at you and goes, man, yeah, ministry's tough, can I help?
Yeah.
I mean, the most beautiful thing is, what if you end up gaining a volunteer through it?
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Or and even if it wasn't that, maybe it's if you have someone who goes, man, that's hard, I'll be praying for you. And that they're praying for you, and they're willing to like check on you and say, hey, let's go get coffee. How's it going? You doing better? And you can check on them and say, hey, how's your marathon training? I mean, this is simple relationship stuff that we all know.
Yep.
But sometimes those are the kind of things that get us through. I can't tell you how many times when I was in the absolute pit of the hardest time of my ministry, where getting coffee with Brent, and more times than not, it was coffee while we were at camp, because we both get up at like stupid early in the morning.
Yep.
And we'll get up and we're both drinking our coffee.
Looking forward to it.
That's when we have our conversations. Before we were doing this podcast every week together, that was when we talked.
Yeah.
And I could tell you those were the times, because here's the thing. Not only did he understand from a ministry standpoint, he also understood my geographical area that I was in.
Yeah.
And he had really good insight, because he understood where I was, the church I was at, the city I was in, and all of that, because he's got personal ties. And so it was someone that I could bounce ideas off of. I could be honest. I could vent. I could be, and I was in a safe spot to talk to somebody. And I knew that not only was I going to get wisdom and I was going to be pushed to do the right things and to say the right things and to work harder and to think things truly through, I also had somebody who'd be willing to pray for me and pray with me. And so it made me better and it helped me endure through a really hard season. And so you never know the fruit of what a conversation like that can bear.
Yeah. And you need people, not person. I mean, David has more than me, just to throw it out there. 100%. And so like when we say you need a team or there's like, you need a village, like it's a thing. And I some of those team members don't need to be in ministry.
Yeah.
100%. Like David said, find some people that will be in your corner that aren't in ministry. Because like you need to have conversations outside of ministry too. Like, and sometimes those people are really, really hard to find because there's a lot of people that will just shut you off, when you say that you're in ministry. And so,
that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah, whole nother conversation. But you've probably experienced it. If not, walk into a room and introduce yourself as the youth pastor and they'll stop talking.
Watch the air come out of everybody's tires.
Yeah. Yeah. So it is one of those things that like we have to be diligent with it, but this is part of discipline too. Like we have to be able to find people that can build us up and encourage us and equip us and help us get through our things as well. And that's all part of like what we're called to do. No one said ministry was going to be easy. And if you bought into that, you bought into a lie. So with that though, what are some practical ways to stay the course? I jumped to the letters in Revelation a lot. Just the mindset of like going and saying, look, hey, you've forgotten your first love. Return to your calling. If you don't have clarity on what that calling is, maybe that's where you start. Not in a way of like, I want to find some other calling so God can get me out of this situation. But what did God originally call me to? What captivated my heart to make me do this in the first place? Simplify where needed. I'm a huge proponent, and I've said this on the podcast a couple times. Like, we don't do things that we don't have a reason for, plain and simple. And if we even have an event that is like a super large thing that like brings a huge crowd, yet we don't have a reason for doing it, we will heavily consider just dropping it for the sake of staying true to the idea that we have, like, where we need to be and why we need to be there. Simplify where you need to. Rest intentionally. Rest intentionally. When you are away from church, be away from church. Whether you have a family, whether you are by yourself, find your things to do and do them. That can be 100 different things. It doesn't mean you have to go sit at home and do nothing. Like, find ways to where you can rest. And I think rest is something that you can even kind of break down into multiple variables, because I don't rest at home on Fridays. So with that being said, like, I might go hang out with friends, and if not, I substitute teach. And like, that's still rest for me because it's away from my normal situations and normal circumstances. And so rest can find different ways. It might just be finding things to do that aren't ministry related. Talk to trusted people. We've already kind of talked about this one. Find mentors, stay with them and stick with them. And then stay rooted in God's presence. Like, if you're like, man, I feel miserable, life is going terrible, but I haven't picked up my Bible in a month and a half. I'm not saying that's the reason, but like, in all reality, maybe you just need to get back to where God's first again. And I know that immediately brings up the prideful comment of like, how dare you say that God's not first? I'm in ministry. Yeah, there's a lot of people in ministry that don't have God first.
Even the ones that pretend to.
Yeah.
And remember, we're pointing at ourselves too. We're not pointing at any
Oh,
random
no, no,
person.
no. We are not perfect in this at all. But we've been stupid enough to make some mistakes that you can learn from, hopefully. Um,
And wise enough to share those
yeah,
mistakes.
yeah. Stupidity, then wisdom. Um,
Yes.
and then finally,
That should be a t-shirt.
you know,
Youth Ministry 101.
yeah,
Stupidity turns to wisdom.
there you go.
The third time. Okay, I'll stop.
No, you're fine. Sometimes, just to kind of end that idea of staying on course, sometimes the most spiritual thing you can do is not quit on a hard day.
That's it.
Like,
Stay the course.
there are days that you're just going to be like, I'm done. This is miserable. Or I've had to do X, Y, and Z over the last 3 weeks, and I am tired. I'm stressed. I'm worn out. I have no time for me. Like, I don't know what to do. And sometimes the most spiritual thing is just not quitting on a hard day. So, if you're in a season where you feel like quitting, pause. In the wonderful words of the great theologian Daniel Tiger,
I know where this is going.
when you feel so mad that you want to roar, take a deep breath and count to 4. Don't make permanent decisions in temporary discouragement. I say that all the time. I tell
I
that
can't believe you remember that. Your kids are older than mine.
I say that to my high school kids all the time. Don't make permanent decisions in temporary discouragement. Take a break, take a breath, take a vacation, take time with your family. God is still working even when you don't feel it.
Yeah.
Faithfulness isn't proven when it's easy, it's revealed when it's hard. So, stay the course, do what you're supposed to do, stay where you're supposed to stay, and allow God to show you why you're here in the first place.
Yeah.
You're doing great things. We all get off track a little bit every now and then. It's okay to be put back on track and stay in the job that we're in. But we need people that we're open enough to where they are like, you just kind of feel off. Like, you don't feel like your normal self. And if you don't have those people, find those people, because they will save your life. They will save your family. They will save your ministry. So, with that being said, I don't have anything else, David. Do you?
Nope.
Okay. Well, we're going to close this one out. Next, and this is, like I said, the end of the month of June. We'll start July next week. And we're gonna probably end up recording that one early because me and David are both at our first. Well, I'm not both at our first. David's already been to a camp this summer. We're at our first shared camp.
Yes.
Next week, and so we will be out there, but we will still have an episode for next week. But with that being said, let's pray, and then we'll call it, and y'all have a great week. God, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the youth pastor listening to this. God, for the discouragement that any of them might feel. Just God, I pray that you make that bountiful. You pray. I pray that a harvest comes out of it. Maybe it's not a harvest of students, but maybe it's an understanding of you greater. Maybe it's a re-clarity and a recalling to their initial calling. Maybe it's an opportunity for them to find you when they feel like you're lost. Maybe it's an opportunity for them to find their people that keep them on path. However that may be, God, for the person that's listening to this, I pray specifically that you reveal what's next, even in that moment of discouragement. And God, I pray that you would allow us to build that endurance, to build that faithfulness that we hear about in the people of old, what the Old Testament heroes of faith and Hebrews chapter 11, all those people that just were the embodiment of faith to you. God, allow us to not put our names on that list, but allow us to use that as an opportunity to find faithfulness and find perseverance and find trust in the fact that you are God and you know why we're here. We just pray that you allow us to know and understand why we're here too. Give us clarity, give us calling, give us reason. Allow us to build and produce that endurance and faithfulness. And God, we just pray for camps and mission trips and everything else coming up over the next couple weeks. God, allow your Spirit to be in those places because you are the only one that can be in all places at all time. Allow your Spirit to intervene. Allow your Spirit to invade. And God, just change hearts this summer for you. And God, I just pray that we continue to see people coming to you over coming to the culture around them. We thank you for this time. We love you. Amen.